Good evening, and welcome to the Putnam Valley Board of Education business meeting of September 20th, 2018. Please stand and join me as we salute our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to start by just making a resolution on the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to approve the minutes for the work session business meeting of September 6, 2018.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
And I'd also now like to announce that the treasurer's report for July 2018 is available in the business office. All right, now
we're going to
move on to presentations.
Yes, we're going to begin our opening of the school year presentations from each of our buildings and from our athletic director, so that and also from our assistant superintendent on the new regulations on counseling. So we have a number of presentations this evening to help us understand how we are initiating the school year. We're going to begin with the high school presentation, Ms. Intrieri.
And it's funny to think that we're in day 9, but the third week. Yeah. It's been a stop and start kind of season.
Good evening, everyone. So just to first review enrollment at the high school this year, we had 19 new students come to the high school over the summer. We've actually even had an additional student come today. So our enrollment numbers look like we had a very small senior class last year graduate, the class of 2018 at 137, and we have a pretty good sized larger 9th grade coming into the high school with 153. So our numbers on the left from last year were 563 in the high school, and this year 591. So we are up over 30 students, which is a very good thing. We like to see when a lot of new students come to Putnam Valley, and we've implemented a few things like new student mentors to help students feel comfortable when they come to the building. We also have our new student breakfast that we hold every year. We're just constantly trying to implement ways to help students adjust who are new to Putnam Valley. We began again the first day of school with Freshman Foundations, which is a program where freshmen come in the morning and they go through different various sessions. For example, one session led by our own Mr. Mahoney and Mrs. Thornton is where they look at the 6-day cycle at the high school, and they color in their schedules, and they learn how the schedule works, and they put a special app in their phone so they can follow the schedule. They also go through other sessions where there's team building, where there's reflective exercises. Mrs. Demain works on a scavenger hunt for the students so they learn where all the offices are in the building, and we've gotten a lot of positive feedback about that from the freshmen. Also, we have the upperclassmen come a half day, and that's when we get all the community meetings out of the way. They're able to get their laptop, and I do want to thank the technology team because it can be daunting to get everybody to get their laptop the first day. It used to be in the high school that students didn't get their laptop till sometimes October. So now they're getting them the first day. They can get into Google Classroom and do all the other exercises that they need to do for their classes, and they get up and running on day 1. Just to review a little bit, I know for the community it was people were unsure about the unit lunch, or they had concerns about it, and I want to just review why we went to the unit lunch, what are the benefits. When we have a later start, we were concerned about a crunch in the afternoon where students would want to do athletics and clubs, and how would that work? So we altered the schedule to have a unit lunch, or what we are now calling the community lunch, in the middle of the day, where students can go to various activities, whether it be their grade level class meetings, which we've already had several of those. They can go to clubs that happen. For example, we have a blood drive coming up next week, and so the blood drive people want to come and talk to all the 11th and 12th graders, so we can bring them all in the pack together at that time and explain what they need to do for the blood drive and what are the criteria for it. There's many other things. We're talking about pep rallies during the year. Instead of students coming out of class, we can use the unit lunch time. So we're constantly coming up with different ways and things that they can do. Students can work on assignments that they owe. We've opened the gym, and I love this picture that I've used here. You'll see this is a student who wanted to make a layup, couldn't quite reach the rim, and you see 2 other students helping him in a really nice effort of teamwork. So that gym is filled with students playing basketball, volleyball, all different things, and we read more and more today about the importance of recess. And I think it's just important in the high school that kids get physical activity and really get that energy out, and they are fully utilizing that. Some students use it to decompress. We see far fewer scheduling changes. Guidance used to be 20 kids in there every hour wanting to change their schedule. We have not seen that this year because everybody has lunch together. So they don't need to change their schedule to be with their friends. It's already happening. And it's teaching kids how to make choices and how to use that time. It can be hard for 9th graders to know how to use that time responsibly because they haven't had that level of freedom before. And we are a school, and we believe in learning and teaching kids behaviors. And that's what we have to work on, is how do we teach these 9th and 10th graders how to use that time effectively and responsibly. And we see much less opportunity for cutting during the day. You can't come to the cafeteria in the afternoon because the cafeteria is closed up. So we're a big school, but not that big where you can hide out. And so we see far fewer cutting. So in the beginning, day 1, just like any change process, change can be messy. And that's what we saw on day 1. It was messy because kids didn't know exactly what to expect. Everybody was just kind of figuring out how to make it better. We have I want to really give a shout out to Mr. O'Connor, our assistant principal, who's worked very hard to really improve everything on a daily basis, working with our food service company. And we can't see now, but there's signs up that mark where you go in lines to get certain things. So if you want a hot lunch, grab and go, cheeseburger, chicken patty, anything like that, 5 minutes or less. We also have the station downstairs is now open, and they have pre-made chicken patties, hamburgers, paninis, etc. Aramark started making pre-made paninis, which do take 10 minutes or less. But if you want a personalized panini with special meats and special condiments, etc., that is where you're going to take 15 minutes because each panini takes 3 or 4 minutes to cook. So that we worked out, and I think kids understand now when the lines are longest, some go do other things and then come back and get their lunch. And I do see sometimes students come back for a second lunch, and they're able to easily go through. Clubs are starting this week, and we're working on a club schedule, so there's well over 20 clubs that will be meeting during the week, and students have the opportunity to choose a wide variety and not have to choose between clubs on the same day. We even had a club fair for our freshmen the opening day so they could sign up and see what was available rather than waiting till Color Wars to do the club fair. We did it early. And then also Mrs. Demain is going to be working with the 9th and 10th graders during academic study time on building their own digital portfolios, which are portfolios where students can choose what they think is authentic work that really best represents them, and building that portfolio from 9th and 10th grade through senior year so they can use that for college admissions, job applications, anything where they want to see how they can represent themselves in a positive manner. She's also been working with seniors to go around to the academic studies to show kids My Study Life so they know how to use the app to see their schedule and what to do when there's a holiday. So she's been very, very good about utilizing that time already to help kids. I just wanted to point out that I wanted to thank everybody and thank Dr. Luft for implementing the new STEM room, which is much larger than the previous STEM room. It's much better suited now to work in a variety of different ways for our engineering classes. There's new workbenches, there's new storage areas. It looks beautiful down there, so I invite you to come take a look. And on the right-hand side, it's hard to see, but there's a student who made a windmill out of soda bottles. So they're really starting to use their creativity to come up with various different inventions. I also want to take a moment and review our attendance. When I first came here in 2015-16, Dr. Wills had an attendance forum, and we talked about how to improve attendance K-12, and we've really been looking at that at the high school, and so I wanted to show you our most recent attendance numbers. So if you look in 2015-2016, we had students out of class for any reason over the course of the year was 82,289. And in that year, in the spring of 2016, we wrote an addendum to the board policy for high school attendance, where we really took a significant look at how to improve it. In 2016-2017, we sent out attendance letters every quarter to identify so parents could see how many absences their child had. We also implemented attendance meetings where students with excessive absences met with one of the administrators. And also last year, we implemented made-up seat time. So students who exceeded a certain given amount of time had to come to the office on a regular basis and make up the seat time to show that it is important that we are in school. And I had posted it on our social media, but there was a 10th grader this year who on the first day of school, it was so important for him to get here. He missed the bus and he biked 6 miles to school, and it was just heartwarming because it just shows that school matters, and it was important for him to get here and be a part of a community. And we can see that last year our numbers dropped down to 53,456 period absences. So that is a significant improvement. And just recently in the past 2 days, an article has come out about school attendance and audits of school attendance and how important it is. And I'm very proud of the teachers, Mr. O'Connor, everybody who took a team effort to make improvements. We can see overall period 1 absenteeism, 7,446 in 2015-16, down to last year's 3,550. I also attribute some of that to the new block schedule last year and students not wanting to miss the block schedule and having a drop period each day. And so we're also looking forward to seeing what happens this year with the later start. Anecdotally, I see already improved lateness to school. I don't see the 20 or 30 kids who are coming late into first period the way I did in the past. And just, I took random periods, excused, unexcused, just to show that overall in all areas, excused absences, unexcused absences, regardless of the period, attendance is improving across the board. So while we have some kinks to work out this year with the community lunch, and it's a work in progress and it's improving every day, I feel that with the block schedule, we are moving in the right direction. And the later start, students already express the fact that they feel less rushed in the morning and more awake when they come to school. You know what, I think we have a sticky, the buttons are not working on this so well. I wanted to also show the library renovation, and some of us were up there just for the listening hour, and important to note that that furniture was not picked by adults, that Mrs. Demain had a board that she did on social media where students put their input, and then as the representatives came to show different options, she would show them to the kids, and they made a majority of the decisions, and they love it. And it's so comfortable, and we can see the mascot on the right-hand side, which I get a kick out of. But I put that up there because we have some seniors who have taken really important leadership roles and who walked around on Friday and got the mascot out so that freshmen would feel more comfortable in the building. And I was, again, very impressed and proud of how they acted. Sticky. And continuing this year, we're continuing to develop the Achievement Center and the curriculum in the Achievement Center, so we focus on social emotional learning as well as making up work and achieving certain academic goals. We still have our well-developed RTI system. Just recently, we held social studies professional development to prepare for the new social studies exams in 10th grade, and we had 6th through 10th grade, and that was very well received, and we'll continue that work. And Our overarching theme this year at faculty meetings, we're talking a lot now about, now that we have the nuts and bolts and we have the schedule and we have the later start, we can really begin to look at grading practices and how we look at students' authentic work. Continued peer mediation, sources of strength, and ways to support the students socially and emotionally. And in here, we also, our biggest initiative, which is IB. And I think that I don't want it to get overlooked with the later start and with the community lunch, because really the IB process is extremely important. It has been a year-long project that we have worked on in all areas that really helps us assess our school, what our strengths are, what our weaknesses are. It's gotten faculty involved in rewriting curriculum, and I can't praise the faculty enough for their enthusiasm. We have to have an IB committee for authorization, and 15 teachers have volunteered their time to be on this IB committee, which shows they're excited about the work we're doing. We're going to continue training. We're starting to look at various resources now. And as I worked with one of our substitutes today who is familiar with the IB program, said, oh, the IB program, it really is thinking. It's not students putting down an answer on a multiple choice test. It's really looking at how you apply your knowledge. So the application is coming up on October 1st, and we're looking forward to an authorization visit this winter, and we hope to be authorized so that we can offer the courses next year. Any questions?
Sounds busy.
I have questions about, of course, common lunch, but more pointed towards where the balance is going to be, or the projected balance. You said schedules are being made up for clubs at this point. Is the vision, is the plan for what kind of balance between after school and during school for clubs? And I'll let you answer that first.
So basically, I would like most clubs, but not all if they don't want to at least offer once a month or weekly meetings if the club can meet. Because what I found in my research is schools that don't offer clubs during the day in some kind of special club schedule, club participation declines dramatically, and clubs cease to exist, or clubs they only get a few kids instead of getting everybody involved. So, I anticipate there's going to be jazz band, and there's going to be guitar club, and there's going to be Make a Difference did their after school club. So clubs will still continue to meet after school, but to really get that broad spectrum of everybody participating, they need to at least do weekly, bi-weekly meetings during the day to get everybody included.
I guess some of my concern is the time crunch during the day as opposed to at the end of the day. There's less of a time crunch at the end of the day, other than, I guess, there's some of the transportation is not as convenient as it was previously because they were going home in middle school buses after what would be period 10. So I just wonder if in the midst of freshmen and sophomores have their 20 minutes of their study hall, then they're supposed to get lunch, and they're supposed to, have the opportunity to go to club. There's not a whole lot of time for club activity if you have, that piece into the mix.
Clubs can occur during that study hall time. So students may leave that study hall to go attend a club if it's occurring at that time. So that's part of it. Really, they have an hour for that common lunch. So really that time for 9th and 10th graders is for them to get organized during that 20 minutes, get their assignments together, see what they need for the day. If a club is happening, they can attend the club. If they need to get extra help from a teacher, that's the time to also get extra help. So they're not necessarily confined just to academic study and then getting their lunch. In many schools, lunch during the day is 25 minutes. So we've always had a 40-minute lunch, and now essentially for 11th and 12th graders, it becomes an hour. So there should be ample time for them to get lunch, eat it, and at least attend part or all of a club that's occurring. I've been watching the time, and really all 9th and 10th graders have everybody is through the line by, I would say, about 11:20, at the latest 11:25. So that's still 25 minutes if they want to attend a club, if not more.
It's also our understanding that some of the club would be after school, so you might have half the 20 minutes in the morning, and then, during lunch, and then another time after school.
So temperamentals, for example,
'Cause it's a 40
they're
minute.
meeting some Thursdays during the day, but then they have some meetings that are after school. So it's a mix, and every club is doing it a little differently.
So, but there'll be, and then I'm thinking on the accounting side of how this all works, the time accounting, not just for students but for teachers, on making sure that we stay on top of the allotted time that's supposed to be, really dedicated to clubs and the stipends they make for those clubs. And
Right, so that time would be the teacher's lunch if they're a club advisor. So if they're choosing to offer their club at that time, it's during their lunch.
So which then leads me to the second question. If with teachers that don't have a 9th or 10th grade class at that assigned time, what are those teachers doing for the other 20 minutes?
So that time is unstructured time, so it could be that, for example, this is when building steering, when we had building steering committee, have to get substitutes for 6 or more teachers for several periods during the day. Now those teachers have decided we'll have building steering during that 1 hour common lunch period, so that reduces the fact that we have to have subs. It could be that they're meeting, last week we had one day where the 15 teachers spent time at the IB committee. It could be that today we went over appeals for Regents graduation. So those teachers involved 6 to 8 different teachers got together during that time and did the appeals for graduation. So it just depends daily on what the need happens to be. It could be when we end up having 3-week monitoring meetings and teachers come in and we discuss student needs. So,
But I'm thinking along the lines of, I'm not trying to get micro, but the idea of if we're looking at half the building, essentially half the teachers would not have 9th and 10th graders assigned to them. So that would mean we have upwards of 30 teachers that have that 20 minutes in addition to their lunch or club time every day. So my concern, I shouldn't say my concern, well, yeah, on the taxpayer side, that there should not be hour lunches.
and I'm being honest, I don't tend to see that. Once we get into curriculum, kids reach out, teachers want kids to come to them for extra help. It'll be makeup test time, if you have a project to work on. So that time used to be at the end of the day because they used to be dismissed, and then students and teachers were contractually required to stay for 10 minutes to offer extra help, which happened in various ways and kind of a crunch. Now that's built into this common lunch. So, because in high school you do need some flexibility for students to do various things at various times, and that little period enables us to do that.
Yeah, I just want to emphasize that 20 minute, that extra 20 minutes is really a collection of what was already unstructured time at the beginning of the day, between periods, at the end of the school day. And we just collected all of that time into one block, which then offers us more flexibility in terms of having grade level work done, building level work done, departmental level work done, all of those things that we're always pulling teachers and getting coverage for. Now there's a common block of time within the school day that was otherwise staggered all over the place. Like there wasn't enough time before classes started to really do anything. There wasn't enough time between classes. There wasn't enough time at the end of the school day. But when we collect all that time together and put it into one block, now we have a usable block of time without losing any instructional time. So I just want to emphasize, we didn't lose a single minute of instructional time. We just collected other unstructured time and grouped it together
So
to
it'd be more-
So, for
increase
example,
what we were
passing
getting out of
time
it.
on the block days is much shorter.
Right.
And then that time is included with the 10 minutes after school.
While you're up here, Ms. Interior, I'd like to, I hope not put Sarah on the spot, but I know it's only been 9 days. Anecdotally, and I know, Ms. Interior, you have an absolute open door policy, but have students expressed any pleasure, displeasure, concern about the later start time, the lunch time? Go, Sarah.
Sure. So in the beginning, I guess, just as Ms. Interior said, it was a little bit rough, and there were definitely complaints from the students, just not really knowing where they can go. But especially during the common lunch, that issue has kind of disappeared, really. Everyone knows where they're going now. They know when they can get lunch, when it's busier, when it's not, and I think that a lot of those issues have been resolved. So from that angle, the common lunch, I think that students are beginning to see a lot of the benefits. They have all of their friends, and they know where they're going to go. So those issues have definitely really gone down.
Okay, great.
And on the issue of teachers and everything, the teachers are all very busy during those 20 minutes, I can tell you. There's tons of students in classrooms going and asking for help and everything like that. So on that additional point, the teachers
really
are being
makes that
utilized.
20 minutes more efficient than 5 minutes here, 7 minutes there.
3 minutes
Yes.
passing
That's
time.
great, and 3 minutes less time.
And
That's
I
great.
think teachers, like students, we're all working on it together to figure out how best to utilize it. So teachers ask every day, for example, Mr. O'Connor leads the peer mediation, and that took a lot of coordinating to try to figure out student schedules and teacher schedules to make those peer mediations happen. And now they can, the peer mediation advisor, Mr. Worrell, was like, can we do this during the unit lunch? So they're constantly figuring out and coming up with ideas and ways to utilize it because they want it to be productive as well.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Drew.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I just want to say that it's, I've been to the high school during the lunch periods, and I see kids making decisions and thinking and having an opportunity to begin to be more independent. And when you think about where they're going afterward, after the high school experience, they're going to need to make decisions, and this is a good way to practice without penalty, if you will. On, where do you eat lunch, who do you eat lunch with, and how can you be productive during the time you have. So I think it's very, very positive.
And I want to thank the board and the district for all their support for everything over the past 4 years. And when we talk about the teachers and the students, they've experienced a great amount of change. A block schedule with a 6-day cycle last year is a huge change. Unit lunch, later start, IB, and everybody is embracing it, being enthusiastic, and that's really, I mean, a
It's
lot
a lot
to,
in a short time.
Yes,
And
and really, I think what is really so powerful is the enthusiasm that we see from the teachers in this program and this change that's taken place at the high school. It's really been a very, very positive experience.
so thank you for your support.
Okay, thank you. Are we going developmentally to middle
Yes,
school?
middle school next.
Crazy. No, it's crazy. Oh, it's crazy. Crazy.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Travis McCarty. I have the privilege of being the principal of Putnam Valley Middle School. So our middle school got off to a wonderful start, and I have a few pictures to share. Our first day of school, we had our buses, as you've all heard. It was a little bit of an issue getting everyone in on time, but since that has smoothed out drastically, you'll see some of our students coming into the building right here on our first day of school. And we've actually been able to get our bus runs to the middle school down to a pattern now of about 7:42 to 7:44, getting all those buses unloaded and into the middle school. Typically last year we saw around 7:48 to 7:50 on some days of getting those students off and into the middle school. So we're a little bit ahead of schedule, which makes it nice because our first advisory class starts at 7:50, so it gives those students ample time to get to their lockers and get settled before moving on to that period 0 class. In the upper right-hand corner, you'll see students coming into our main lobby, hugging one another, which is always a nice sight to see. And one of our big changes there is we used to have a big kiosk in our main entrance, which took up a lot of space. And really it was a security issue because we're letting people into the building prior to really checking in on them. And I'll talk about that in a few more slides as to how that has changed. And then a few gentlemen down in the lower right-hand corner, a few of our 6th graders smiling for the camera.
Very cute.
So I want to talk a little bit about the enrollment change at the middle school, as we have seen a little bit of a decrease in population over time. As Ms. Intrieri stated, we had a large incoming freshman class that left the middle school. So this year, we're down about 31 students from 540 last year to 509 this year. So we do see that change coming over from the elementary school. Our population is down a little bit. We do offer around 6 sections for each grade level. So we do have a little bit of an opportunity to share with you our proficient students from the year 2016-17 to 2017-2018 in the area of ELA. And you're going to notice that we saw an increase in all grade levels. So in 2016-2017, 5th grade went from 30% up to 34% last year. 6th grade, 34% to 69%. 7th grade, 36% to 46%. And 8th grade, 39 to 47%. Now, what I think is important is if you follow the cohort, you'll also see an increase. So if you see here, 5th grade at 30%. When they went to 6th grade, they went up to 69%. Whoops. Go back. 6th grade in the year 2016-2017, when they became 7th graders, they went up to 46%. So keep jumping. And 7th grade went from 36% to 47%. So we are seeing improvement in those areas. And I have to tell you, Ms. Mangieri, our assistant principal, does phenomenal work monthly with our ELA teachers. And all of the middle school ELA teachers get together once a month to look at student work and to look at everything we need to do to continue improving. In the area of math, proficient being 3s and 4s, 5th grade went from 46% to 61%. 6th grade went from 36% to 41%. 7th grade from 42% to 52%. And 8th grade from 36% to 18%. And I'll talk a little bit about that 18%. We actually had around 28 students take the Algebra 1 Regents exam, and they do not sit for the math state test in 8th grade. So those students are skimmed off the top. In addition, we have about 50% of our students opt out of the Math 8 state test, which gives us a very limited amount of students to assess. So that 18% is impacted by this. And you'll see the year before at 36%. That was the year we did not have the Algebra 1 Regents. And we also had around 50% opt out. So if you look at these diagonally, we go from 46% in 5th grade. When they came to 6th grade, they went to 41%. 6th grade, that cohort, sorry, let's see if I can get that. That cohort went from 34%, whoops, sorry. That cohort went from 36% to 52%, and then 42% to that 18%, which again, we took those Algebra 1 students off the top. And what we see consistently with our grade levels, we still see is our opt-out rates are the greatest in 8th grade, followed by 7th grade, followed by 6th, followed by 5th. So it really, we're still trying to figure out why there are so many opt-outs, but we have had more students taking the assessment over the last couple of years, than we had in prior years.
Mr. McCarty, can I just interrupt for a second because it came up in the listening hour? There are parents who might be watching that are wondering why they haven't gotten their scores or their test results. We as schools have only gotten them by grade. They have not yet been, is that true? Can you explain that? They have not been released
Sure,
by
I can.
student? Thank you.
Yeah, so across New York State, the state test results have been embargoed, meaning there isn't a cut score yet. So the only thing I'm showing you there is proficient to proficient. We don't have 3s and 4s. We don't have that cutoff line yet, nor are we allowed to share it with the public. So that is something that's embargoed, and we just found out a couple days ago that the initial deadline was going to be the end of September. They've now moved it to October. So we did have some questions on academic intervention services, and what's nice is we're using our local benchmarks like iReady assessments, teacher recommendations, teacher benchmark scores throughout the year for placement in academic intervention services. So thank goodness we don't solely rely on New York State assessments to place our students to give them that extra support. So yes, AIS services are going on. Parents have received letters, and we're off to a great start in that area.
Thank you. Just wanted to clarify that.
Yep. So, as Ms. Intrieri stated, the high school went to a later start time this year, and the year prior, they went to a block scheduling, which is what we have done at the middle school starting this year. And one of the things that we were able to add to our schedule is an advisory period. And this is from 7:50 to 8:13 every morning. It's approximately 23 minutes, where the students are at a 1-to-12 ratio with an adult. And we work on many different activities like our One Book, One School, our Yale Ruler, addressing the social and emotional. We work on checking our grades in Power School, executive functioning skills, on getting organized, and really forming relationships and having someone that those students can go to. And one of our big goals is having student advocacy and giving them a voice. So encouraging students to go to an adult if they have an issue or questions. And that's what's built into our advisory. And we did a toothpaste activity this week with our middle schoolers. And I tell you, there were some comments from adults and students that the building smelled like peppermint all day. And it was such a great smell throughout the building. And the activity was they had to design a creature. It could be a fictional creature or a real creature, and they had to do it using toothpaste, but they took turns drawing the character on newspaper. And then we asked them to put all the toothpaste back in the tube. The look of bewilderment amongst everyone, like, I don't know how to do that. You're asking me to do that? What your sinks look like at home in the morning with toothpaste all over? That's what the newspapers look like. So the whole theme to the activity was what you say can't be taken back. So it's a little bit in regards to bullying and being kind to one another and being empathetic to others, and what you say and what you text and what you do can't be taken back. So think very carefully before doing it. And it was nice. We had a lot of students bringing in toothpaste. We saw them taking turns designing the creature. And I think it went a very long way amongst our students and our staff. We actually did it with our staff during our faculty meeting this week. So a very powerful lesson that actually myself and Ms. Mangieri went through at a leadership conference this summer in Brewster. So moving on to block scheduling, you're going to notice that your 6th graders now have pods, which means that they are in 60-minute blocks in 5th and 6th grade in the morning. And then in 5th and 6th grade in the afternoon, they're in 80-minute blocks with science one day and social studies the other day. 7th and 8th grade, depending on what the subject is, our core subjects mainly are in 80-minute blocks. And it does take a little while to get used to. Some of the students have noticed that it's a good idea to have a brain break, to get up, walk around, go out and get a drink of water and come back. Teachers are making sure that their instruction is innovative so that there's transitions throughout the block, because a lecture for 80 minutes just won't work, as it didn't work in 40 minutes. So we're adjusting to this block scheduling, and I'll tell you, it's taking quite a bit to get used to. We're trying to ring the bells in just certain classrooms so it doesn't disrupt the entire building. However, it was so difficult for some teachers to get used to that, we voted to bring the bells back. Now they ring every 40 minutes, and we're getting used to that new schedule. Our passing time is different as well with the 80-minute blocks, some 40-minute blocks, and some 60-minute blocks that the entire school doesn't pass at the same time. And it's very interesting to be out in the hallways and see this because it feels that sometimes like the middle school is empty, but kids are in classrooms still learning while other kids are transitioning. So it's really made it nice. It's lowered the amount of students in the hallways. And we did go from 4-minute transition times to 3-minute transition times to gain that advisory period. And students are still adjusting to that. I always say if you give kids 10 minutes to get to class, some are going to use the entire 10 minutes. If you give them 3 minutes, some are going to use the whole 3 minutes. So it all depends, but 3 minutes seems to be a good balance of time. You'll see the next thing I want to talk about is clubs and activities. And this has been a topic for debate for the middle school ever since discussing the later start time of the high school. There will be packets going out soon, and this is a normal start for clubs and activities, late September, early October. And the topic has been around the fact that we no longer have the bus run for the high school at 7 a.m. So really limited the ability for students to get in to school at 7 a.m. And I just asked the board if we could look at that student drop-off in the morning and maybe think of other ways that we could open clubs up in the morning. We talk about various things that have to do with clubs, but my main concern is if we only offer clubs in the afternoon, we have a lot of conflict in the afternoon with 7th and 8th graders playing sports, which would only allow them about, I don't know what the transition is in modified sports, probably 3 to 4 weeks in between seasons. It might be a little longer, I'm not positive. But that would be the only opportunity for those students to have clubs in the afternoon. And this really affects 4 to 5 clubs in the morning. We're talking about intramurals because intramurals could not take place in the afternoon because of all of our complexes are used unless they're outside. So it would affect intramurals. Currently, our Go Green happens in the morning with recycling bottles and newspaper. We have Jewelry Club that runs in the morning. We also have Field Hockey Club that runs in the morning. We have a Martial Arts Club that runs in the morning. But this is a space that really, our gymnasium, the one time a day that we know that it's open is before school. And then, of course, during lunch and recess time, it has to remain open just in case there's inclement weather to bring the kids inside. So the thought process is if we open it up to parents for a drop-off at 7 a.m. and we know that transportation is running more smoothly now in the morning for busing drop-off at the middle school, the thought process is we get more students into the middle school at 7 a.m. to, get their energy out, to start their day at really 8:13, even though they start advisory at 7:50. It really helps to get some students started, and it gives that opportunity for those who can get in at 7 a.m. or carpool, something to that extent. So I just ask that we look at clubs and activities again, now that we're 9 days into the school year. Maybe it's a discussion point. You're going to notice here in our courtyard an area that was really a desert-like feel for many years because the kids trolloped the grass, they sat on benches, they played soccer. We've now turned half of that area into a community garden. And I can tell you our Triple P Club, Plants, Produce, and Preservation, along with a few of our classrooms, helped create raised beds. And our staff has really been having students all summer come to this space to water. And what a summer we had between the sun and the rain. If you look at the picture to the left, we have a 7-foot-high sunflower outside of my office that I get to look at every day. And it's just inspiring to me to see the flowers the vegetables, the herbs that are growing there. It's really nice to see the students come out, and we've picked tomatoes, and the staff and students are eating them fresh. We want to donate some to our cafeteria staff to put in salads, and the produce just keeps coming. So I know that the Triple P Club on Friday, tomorrow, is going to have bring a friend to the garden after school, and they're all going to pick the produce that's there. I've been told the beets and the carrots have to wait a little bit longer, and they're hardy and can stay in the ground. But those that are above, like the kale, the cucumbers, the tomatoes, have to be picked soon. So kudos to that. Very, very changing atmosphere in our courtyard area. And I know Dave Spittle, our facilities director, even had the outside crew plant grass opposite it. So not only do we have grass now that's not trampled every day, but the community garden, it's really a nice space for anyone to bring their class outside and sit at the picnic tables and enjoy that outside area. So some of the curriculum work over the summer was in regards to block scheduling and really teachers having to take that 40-minute period and expand it to an 80-minute period. It's not an easy thing to do. I was able to supply teachers with some resources to look at and what ideal segments were and transition times for that 80-minute block. And we continue to have ELA and math groups after school once a month to look at student work. And as Ms. Intrieri stated, and I heard back from my 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade social studies teachers, they said by visiting the high school this week and talking about the global assessment and the changes in curriculum, it was the most inspiring PD they've had in years. And they look to see that work continue. And they also see the work that they have to do at the middle school, those changes that they need to make so that the 10th grade global regents, those students are very successful when they reach that point to take that. Encores, I just wanted to update you. We do have a couple new encores this year. One being Capstone Research, which helps with our, and I mentioned it previously, it helps with our science research. We have a teacher who's actually teaching that in both 7th and 8th grade on research skills and developing research projects that can grow with the students. So they start it in 7th grade and they finish it in 8th grade, and they would need to present that as well. We have a health and wellness course, an encore that's being offered as well. And then we also added another family and consumer science class as well to our encore selection. Some of the pictures you'll see here are of our new recess area, which is out of the parking lot and right directly behind the building. We have 2 new basketball hoops. We have picnic tables. I think there's 6 or 8 back there. And grass, which is most important of all, instead of asphalt on the parking lot.
It sounds so awful when you say recess was in the parking lot. Now then it's not in the parking lot. But it was in the parking lot for years, and it was just what was done. So kudos to you, Mr. Spittle, everybody who got together to have that happen. Because when I hear, I cringe. How could we let children play in a parking lot?
And the students are, you see the smiles on their faces. They're enjoying it, and the one way that you know they're really enjoying themselves, and a teacher said this to me today, Mr. McCarty, it's like being at the elementary school where there's dirt and mud in the hallways from the kids coming inside, from being outside at recess. And we're seeing the same thing in the middle school right now, and it's so enlightening. It's great to see. And it is. Kids need to be outside, kids need to get their energy out, and they really need to enjoy this space. I've even heard that some adults who have kids playing football and out in other areas have enjoyed this space as well. So the community, it sounds like, enjoys this space a little bit as well, instead of being out in the parking lot. So thank you, Dave Spittle, and everyone else involved in really having that vision of moving our containers out of this beautiful spot. So some of the renovations that took place in the middle school this summer, we renovated our art room, and it was original from 1972. The cabinetry was falling apart. There was paint all over everything. The floor had been scraped, chiseled up and redone. So the floor is brand new. All the countertops are brand new. The furniture is flexible. Everything's on casters. We have nice big tables for artwork that can be moved around and put into groups. And most of all, for those of you that don't know Mrs. Raccanelli, this is her last year as an art teacher in our middle school. We have an interactive TV for her. Now, to see a teacher's face light up and to learn technology after being in the district for so many years, she comes to me every day and says, Mr. McCarty, I can't believe what this thing can do. She's got artwork up there, she's posting student artwork, and she's showing movies, and it's just really innovative and creative for her to see a smile on her face, to be learning new technology in her final year of her career. And the kids are just really enjoying art, and we can use this space for other classes as well. It's not just an art room. We can put any classroom in here to use the space because of the interactive TV, the flexible furniture, and everything that we've added. So it really came out nice. Our clinical suite has color. So if anyone's been to the middle school, we have one main color throughout the whole school. It's called Tundra, and it's a white. And we brought some color to the middle school by picking out a blue. And if you go down to the guidance suite where Mrs. Castellan, Mrs. Bale, and Mr. Kane are now located, it's really a soothing blue. And students have been commenting on it, teachers have been commenting on it, and they've renovated the space as well so that when you come into the space, students can find an area that they can go just to take a time out or just to think. And it's really a nice area for them to come and wait if they need to, for one of the clinicians to see them if need be. Some of the security changes that we have at the middle school, when you come to the main entrance, you need to still ring in, and then the first set of doors open up, and you'll see our Miss Margiata behind the window there. She actually asks adults for their ID. Sometimes people drop off backpacks, and everyone signs in, and we have visitor passes, yellow lanyards that say visitor, and of course you still get your stickers with your face on them. And then you go through a second set of doors. So this really has helped with who enters and who exits the middle school, and Mrs. Margiata has been great in signing everyone in and out. So when you do visit the middle school, please make sure that you come through the first set of doors, sign in, and then go through the second set of doors. And in fact, this has opened up that main area for students, and they have much more space to navigate when they're coming in and out of the building. And those are all the changes, I believe, for the opening of Putnam Valley Middle School for the 2018-2019 school year.
And Ms. Travis, can I just ask, maybe sometime before our next meeting, or could we have some data of how many students utilized the morning clubs in the past when we had them, and specifically what grades? And I want to, if we're going to look at making some changes and adding some costs, parent drop-off does not sound like a big deal, except the part of me that talks about equity. What about people that don't have the option to have somebody drop them off? So there could be a cost involved. Could we have some data on what those numbers are?
Sure.
And also, how much, I think the question also came up, how much time is there before athletics start at the middle school in the afternoon?
There's no time. Actually, at the middle school, we have modified sports beginning at 2:45. So we really exit the building at 2:40. Kids get on the buses, and if it's a modified sports, kids go to the locker room and they get changed. We actually have some supervision for some coaches that need a little bit of time to get to the middle school. So athletes are supervised until around 3 o'clock. And then the coach meets the students at that time and brings them out on the field or into the gymnasium. But there is no time. There never has been. In all my years, I used to coach modified sports, and I would change quickly, get down to the gymnasium, and meet my athletes. So there's no time in between. I think You know, one of the things that has been brought to my attention that I'm reflecting on is modified sports occur after school, and students have a choice to participate in modified sports or not. And when we would go to an away game, say in Pauling, the bus might not get back until 6:15 or 6:30 at night, and parents had to pick up their children. I didn't have a bus to get my students to their homes, so they would carpool with other parents, or they would find out a way. I'm sure Mr. Smith remembers the days where you might be waiting a little while for parents, but nowadays we have cell phones, which is convenient to get those students home. So I go back and forth with that a little bit, but when we think about clubs as well, so we choose to participate in clubs or not, and it would be, if you would like to join a club and you can get there in the morning, then you'll carpool or you'll find a parent that can drive you in. So that's, some people have opened my eyes to looking at both sides of the day. And when I look at sports and I look at the end of the day, it really opened my eyes, and I said, oh, maybe this is something we should look a little more closely at, but I can definitely get you those morning numbers.
Because I'm also thinking half the school does not participate in sports. So half the school is getting out at 2:45. I don't want an 11-year-old out at 2:45. I want them in a 2:45 club. So, I think there's a balance.
There is.
Between, that's why I want to look at what our numbers are.
And if we can do both, it opens up more options for everyone.
But right now, would there be clubs in the afternoon?
Yes, clubs will still run in the afternoon, as well as modified sports. Other questions?
I have a question on the advisory period. You're saying it is a 12 to 1 makeup. Who's the one? As far as who's the staffing that is? Because obviously we don't have enough teachers for a 12 to 1 ratio. So if you can go a little bit further into who that is and how that's set up for the non-teaching staff.
Sure. So we have a committee that designed a curriculum. It's called the Advisory Committee, as well as Building Steering Committee is coming up with ideas for advisory. And the people that make up the 12 to 1 are Miss Mangieri has a group. We have monitors that have groups. We have teaching assistants that have groups. And we have teachers that have groups. And if you walk around the building, it is a beautiful sight because we have some teachers or some adults, I should say, in the hallways with groups. Sometimes there's 2 adults in a classroom and they share a space. We have groups in the gymnasium, in the cafeteria. They're spread all around the school, and it's really neat to see on all the boards the same message and to hear different perspectives, like they were doing a collage that identifies who they are. So today they had to they have to go back to magazines, newspapers, maybe things they find online, and bring pictures back to school that they create a collage that identifies who they are. So a lot of the work they're doing is to build that advocacy and to build those relationships. And it's not new teaching. It's something that we've designed as a committee that the teachers are just the purveyor and say, here's what we're doing today, see what you can do. So it's powerful. So to answer your question, the adults are a variety throughout the building.
And Ms. McCarty, that was the original 25 years ago when the middle school model was rolled out, because we all know that sometimes the student has more connection with the custodian or with the security guard or with the secretary. So the point of advisory was to have that go-to person, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a teacher. I'm thrilled that there is a thought-out sort of plan, if not, I don't want to use the word curriculum, but plan. So
you know what's interesting about this is with the advisory and with the Yale ruler work that we've been doing as a district, the state this summer is now rolling out curriculum for the social and emotional needs of students, and they're encouraging schools to implement it. So I just smile and I say, we're ahead of the game. What we're doing addresses all of those needs. And as we all know, with one psychologist, one guidance counselor, and one social worker for 500 students, it's not always easy. And we're hopeful that these smaller groups identify others in the building that students can see with needs. Now, I'm not saying deep psychological needs, but I'm saying, hey, I had trouble today. Can you help give me a little bit of advice? And I don't think any adult in the building would ever hold back advice for a child.
Or be able to maybe identify, Johnny's a little quieter than usual. Let me go see Mrs. Bale and let her know. Whereas in a bigger room, they might have been missed.
And it's making those connections.
I have two more things. One is, can you go back to your enrollment numbers? I'm looking at, I guess I'll find out when we get to the elementary, just seeing if we will be at under 500 next year, because we have smaller classes coming from the elementary school. So that's, I'm just looking at that number.
Yep, I will tell you, and actually Ms. Mangieri pointed this out to me, the bump that we saw this year was not necessarily in 6th grade, it was in 7th grade. So if you look diagonally, in 5th grade to 6th grade, we went from 131 to 128. But from 6th grade to 7th grade, we went from 121 to 127. And I know the difference is only 6, but we typically see the bump in 6th grade. But this year we haven't. And I will tell you, just speaking from the elementary school, because I am watching closely, I have 2 children in the elementary school. My son's grade in 2nd grade, 3rd grade. Boy,
Somebody
goes quick.
correct Mr.
It goes
McCarty.
quick. I've got one in 1st grade and one in 3rd grade. He's in 3rd grade, and it's the largest group in the elementary school, and it's a big group, but our numbers will, unless we have an influx, projected, I would say, are going to be down around 500.
Then the second thing is, if you cut the bottom off of the toothpaste tube, open it up, you can put it back in.
Stop.
That's why we didn't give them scissors. You know what's interesting? I had to show the students how to roll the tube from the bottom. Because I'm still the one that squeezes from the top, but if you roll it from the bottom, it comes out easier. Little things.
Are you teaching them to put the caps back on? Isn't that a big
That's another skill.
marital issue? Okay. Any other questions? Oh, all right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Last but not least.
Well, not last.
Not last.
Yeah, but
Last of
athletics.
school.
Before we go to the elementary school, I just wanted to say that the changes that we're seeing in our schools are all with kids in mind as being the focus of everything we do. And at the middle school, as we saw at the high school, same idea. We're looking at ways to improve the environment for kids in every way. And social emotional piece is very, very significant, particularly at the middle school where they're changing. And I think the efforts that are being made are quite substantial. Change is difficult for everyone. And there is certainly a sense that it is different there. It was very much the same for many years. And so this change does affect people. It affects the teachers who are learning how to deal with larger blocks of time. And it affects, how we look at our day and what that, day is about. So I think it's very admirable, and I really appreciate the work that our administrative team has done to look at our schools, look at our kids, and really mean that the student is first and foremost in the district.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Margaret Podesta, principal of the Putnam Valley Elementary School, and it's nice to hear how things are going at the middle school and high school. We all work so closely together, and we're excited for the year ahead. Before the school year began, with all its heat and excitement, over the summer, a lot was going on at the elementary school. Thank you to the Board of Education for approving our kinder camp. It was our 3rd successful year already. We had 21 students come in for 4 mornings and 2 classes, and it was just a great 4 days, helping children with transition to schools, leaving their homes, getting used to what the school setting looked like. It's just a great program. We had lots of construction going on in the building right up to the beginning of school, including the big geothermal project that we're all excited about. And it seemed at one point in August, are we going to be ready? But of course, the building got ready and it's in great shape. With teachers, we worked on master schedule again, just doing some minor revisions of blocks for ELA and math, making sure that we could extend some math time a little bit for our elementary students. But the big change during the lunch blocks this year is children are going to recess before lunch. We know that other schools, some schools try this so that the children have their snack in the morning. If the time is right, they go outside, get their energy out, play, and then hopefully find that children are eating in the cafeteria, they're relaxed, they're socializing, they're not rushing down food, and we're starting to find that kids are going back for seconds, so the kitchen is preparing for that. So far, so good. We're asking teachers for feedback, we're asking students for feedback, but it is in place at this time, and we're really hearing positive comments. We also did Ela Curriculum Planning over the summer with teachers. There was a group of teachers who worked on the Ela Challenge program that I'll talk about, and also the Math Challenge that you know we piloted last year. We had AIS teachers work on a somewhat modified design, having 3 ELA teachers and really looking at targeted instruction, very specific groupings that will remain fluid throughout the year to give students exactly what they need. And of course, grade level teams met over the summer for curriculum work. So it was a very busy summer. Our start was very positive. You know, at the beginning of the year, schools that were working out some busing issues, making sure the timing is right, but really overall quite smooth. We had our kindergarten orientation in late August and the kindergarten back to school night. Parents are very excited. They appreciate the chance to talk to us, to teachers and administrators, and have their questions answered. We had a new student meeting, any new students who came in, and we did have over 30 new students come in throughout the summer, so we welcome them warmly. We always modify our arrival and dismissal at the beginning of the year. If you can see it, it's to see it is to believe it. Just getting those kindergartners who forget their names at the time, but they have name tags to get where they're going. We escort the children to classes, of course, and then just making sure that dismissal notes are given and everyone is safe and in the right place at the end of the day. The second day of school, we had bus safety drills. Our children are encouraged and expected to wear their seatbelts unless a parent chooses not to in writing, and we appreciate that too. But we did have our bus safety drills right away so that safety is of prime concern. The first Friday, we had a beautiful night for a PTA PVES picnic on our back lawn. A bubble bus was there, it was well attended, and it's just a nice community event. We've already had Steve Max, who does Simon Says, thanks to our PTA Arts and Ed. It's a character read assembly with lots of energy and excitement, so that took place for all grade levels last week. And we have had back to school nights for our grades 3 and 4 on September 13th and 1st and 2nd on the 17th. So we've had the parents in, and we want to continue that communication throughout the year. Now here are our enrollment numbers. Right now we have a high 90s to 127 in 3rd grade, which is what Mr. McCarty was talking about, our big group now in 3rd grade with 6 sections, and our 4th grade is at 109, so that is a smaller group than what you've had come into the middle school. But if you look at the numbers, you can see that last year we were at a total of 543, and now we're at 527. So we do have a bit of a decrease there in total enrollment. Our class sections, as you can see, we have 5 sections of every grade level except for 3rd grade with the 6 sections. And they're 6 good sections. I'll show you the exact numbers there, but it's a nice healthy size class. And we have 2 classes of New Horizons, which is our self-contained special ed program. So I can tell you that every class is between 18 and 23 right now. And if I look, I know that's hard for you to see, but our 3rd grade classes with the bigger group are between 20 and 22. So all classes are within that 18 to 23 range at this point. and that was similar to last year. Our new programs this year, of course, we piloted the math challenge on Mondays during our I-block with rotating leveled groups. We are putting that in place for October, and we're already having our math instructional support person, Mr. Coleman, meet with teachers about data to use for that. Our grades 2 through 4 take the iReady, but we also have module assessments and benchmarks that we work together as grade levels to make sure we have accurate data so that leveled groups can work on their math challenge on Mondays with a teacher at their grade level. The ELA challenge is a new idea, which we will do on Fridays during iBlock in the student's own classroom. Some children will still go to their iBlock services, but the ELA Challenge Committee who met over the summer was multi-grade level teachers who talked about creative ideas to bring on English Language Arts Challenge, including games, newsletters, writing, very exciting work, which I think will be extremely engaging to the students, which is the key. We have extended library blocks for grade levels so that the use of the makerspace, the outdoor learning center, our newly cleared hiking paths, and even out to the pond can take place, really keeping that theme of nature and engagement and sustainability throughout our day. We also have a sensory room being created, and that's the nice calming blue also. The sensory room is a room where if a child needs a break with their support staff, might be an emotional time in the day, just to kind of wind down, get the frustrations out. It's just a place that's safe and comforting and will give that child a safe space to do that. And once in a while it's necessary, and I think it's wonderful that we have a building that allows for that when needed. And we're supporting our students in every way. And when we talk about the social emotional intelligence, that's part of it. We also have additional AIS services. As I said, we really are looking at data constantly, and we're looking at what does a child need? What is keeping that child from getting to the next level as a reader and writer? And with all of our new data and our updated way of looking and talking about students, we can really be very specific about what instruction can take that child to the next step. As far as professional development, we have Ms. Baig from iReady who will work with our teachers on iReady data analysis to help inform instruction. We have Ready Toolbox Professional Development, which is a license our whole school has providing math and ELA tutorials, but also targeted lessons that go along with what we find the student needs. We have in-house workshops for guided reading for teachers in K through 2 coming from BOCES, and that starts October 1st. We're very excited about that because the teachers have asked for that, for either guided reading refreshers or for the first time actual training in guided reading for some teachers. So that will take place in-house. We are working with Peggy Golden this year several times throughout the year to provide Eureka math professional development for teachers who are new to a grade level or newish to a grade level. So some teachers who were at a grade level for 1 to 2 years actually contacted me and said, I'd love to be part of that with our math curriculum, just to better understand the math modules and the number sense behind it. So we had our first day with Peggy last week, and it was extremely well received. We also have in-service taking place this year for the Writing Revolution, which is not a program, but it's an approach to writing. We had 2 teachers one at third and one at 4th grade go to BOCES at the beginning of the summer. They took days of training in the Writing Revolution, and now they are turnkeying for their colleagues. And this in-service starts in early October. We have, I think, between 25 and 30 teachers signed up for this already. We have ongoing professional development, of course, with Science 21. So with each, this is spiraling out, led by David Jacobs at BOCES. So at each year, a new grade level is piloting a new teacher-written curriculum, and then the teachers get trained with it. So that is a very next-gen science, hands-on, and of course, you've heard that our elementary school is kind of like a model school for these Science 21 lessons. Foundations training takes place for any teacher who needs it, K through 3. Jen Kronk is still with us regularly for Google training, and she speaks at our staff meetings and brings new ideas to the staff, and they sign up to work with her, and they really do take advantage of that, which is wonderful. And we now have math, next gen standards, professional development led by Mick Coleman taking place for teachers as well, because although the standards may stay similar, there will be changes, and we want to be definitely on the cutting edge and make sure we know what's coming. The AIS updates, we still have the math push-in support for teachers so that demo lessons can be given right in a teacher classroom. We have moving groups throughout the year, so children who need math support can come in for a while. If they don't need it anymore, they can go back to the classroom during iBlock, but at least it's fluid so that we are aware of what students' needs and what student needs are, and we can stay on top of that. We also have, of course, the ELA support, and just to be more specific with our 3 ELA AIS teachers, the 3 general areas that we're focusing on are guided reading and comprehension, Wilson, the word work and fluency, and then writing in response to reading and vocabulary. So you may be a strong reader, but do you know how to write in response to the reading, which is very specific. So this is really great that we can really fine-tune what a student might need and then give them that direct instruction and practice. Our ELA teams have daily data study meetings so that we can progress monitor and take a look at where our students are and what they need. Our Google Drive that was shared by all teachers at a grade level, you're constantly updating that data so it's current and you can take a look at what a picture of the whole student looks like data-wise. And then we use that for our 2 very strong RTI meetings that use the data and the interventions to look at what's happening for students and really stay on top of what's necessary. Now, speaking of data, here is our impressive state data that we have received from the spring. And we do, I have to say, take great pride in how far we've come as a building in the last few years. ELA grade 3, our 3s and 4s, we went from 54% up to 68%. Our ELA grade 4 from 51%, up to 57%. Math grade 3, take a look, 60% up to 82% passing. And math grade 4, 58% up to 73% passing. These numbers are so different from several years ago when the Common Core first came to us. We are taking a really hard look at what's working. There's always room for improvement, and yes, test scores are only part of the picture, but our test scores needed to go up. Our teachers have worked so hard. The board and Dr. Wills, you've supported all of the professional development and the changes we've had to make. And it really is making a difference to our school, to our students, and to our community. We're going to keep working. We're going to keep rising, but it's really showing that this is making a difference for our students and how prepared they are for the next level. Our science passing rate is a 95.6% in 4th grade. So worth noting, student with level 4s, which is the highest you can get, in grade 3, 42% of our 3rd graders got a level 4, 42%. In 4th grade, the students who have gone through all of these years, the past few years, with the Eureka math curriculum and the work we've been doing, 48% got a level 4. That's almost half the class getting a level 4. So congratulations to these students who are working and trying all these math strategies that their parents haven't heard of, but and congratulations to the teachers because they have worked with this Eureka math curriculum since 2014-15, where we started doing the professional development. We had full implementation in 2015-16. And so talking about, as educators, to invest the time, to invest ourselves, let the curriculum spiral up through the grade levels, have the children get the foundation, and then commit to what we're doing. You can see it. The time is telling us it's paying off. Our children are really thinking mathematically, and they're improving in ELA as well. This is hard to see because I listed too many things because ELA is so full of what we're trying to do. But right from kindergarten, our primary grades, first and second grade, we have increased the foundation of what our students get as English language studiers. And so we have the foundations, which is the phonics, the word work, the wordly wise, which is the vocabulary, Smarty Ants, which is the reading computer program that is so child-friendly and gives gives teachers such information about data. We use the Engage New York modules and domains, particularly in 3rd and 4th grade, but teachers in the primary grades have access to the domains to really support comprehension and vocabulary. Teachers use the Readers Writers Workshop, a heavy focus on nonfiction reading, a stress on accountability. What have you read? And being accountable for what you've read in an engaging way, not a way to deter readers. Literature circles and book clubs, both in the classroom but also in our school library. Guided reading instruction, particularly in the lower grades. And of course, the use of resources such as the Ready Toolbox, the Ready Books that we've used just to support the work we're doing. So this is a school-wide effort, and as I said, we continue to look for ways to improve, but we've brought in things that we are finding make a difference to the children. As far as our building goes, of course, the geothermal, which I'm not an expert on, but I'm really excited when there's air conditioning. Updated parking lot, which allows for more parking spaces even when the buses are out there, which we all needed. The sensory room, which is still in progress. The maker space, which is ever-changing but always open to classes and ready for activity. But you can see the hiking path that Mr. Spittle cleared for us that leads to the pond. That's on the left. The teachers are very excited to be using that, along with the outdoor learning center, which now has the shade. Remember, trees had to be taken down for safety, but now it is not just sitting baking in the sun. There's this beautiful shade looking at that gorgeous chalkboard that will be there forever. And, we are very grateful for that. We have the hiking paths, the outdoor learning center ready for use now with the fall weather. Our PVES clubs, which should be underway soon, of course, the safety patrol, our 4th graders who help monitor the hallways and arrival and dismissal, the Kids of Character Club that works closely with our character education initiatives, our Maker Club, the Healthy Food and Nutrition Club, Young Explorers, a new club, Oceanography, and of course, the PVES musical. All adds to the culture of our school. Our building and district missions, of course, we're very involved in the ruler work, and we do have new members on our building team, which is fantastic. Our sustainability initiatives, innovative learning and furniture and teachers involved working with Dr. Luft on those innovative classrooms, and always PV Rising. So that's where we are, and I thank you. Any questions?
Looks great, very busy.
It's very, very exciting. And again, what we see is enthusiasm and dynamism of our administration, our leaders, and that's catching. It's contagious. It's a contagious problem.
That's right.
We getting things done for kids, with kids, and we can see that's the center of everything that we do. So, thank you.
Congratulations.
Sorry, I have 2 questions. First one, did the orientation of the outdoor classroom change? It looks like it's more sideways instead of up the hill, and the sign moved. Did that?
No, it didn't change angles or anything. It's just the trees and then maybe where the shade was placed. Yeah.
And then I know it's early in the year, but I'm sure the questions will be coming soon enough from folks about the replacement of a 4th grade trip, seeing as the current trip the previous trip is not going to be an option this year.
Right. So TOEC is closed for the year. I think the children kind of have heard that just, buzz around, but we have not come up with a replacement at this time. That trip, I'm going to say, is becoming harder and harder to manage just financially and supervising-wise, but we're not against it. We just haven't had that conversation as far as, is there a replacement for this year?
Okay, anything else?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I think we have athletics next.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
I was sitting over there and I've heard brain break enough that I think we should all really take one. We should get up and do a sun salutation or something after sitting for so long.
Probably
Good
not a
sensory
bad
room.
idea.
Yeah. Okay. So to bring you up to speed on our opening, we have a new nurse in high school this year, Tara O'Connell Purr. The word on the street is she's doing very, very well.
Excellent.
Yep, people are very happy with her. She's been quickly integrated into school setting, which she had not done any school nursing before. So that was a little bit intimidating for her, but luckily, I guess we have become very adept at training people, because last year we had to do it so many times with all the substitutes. So we were able to get her up to speed very, very quickly, and she is a wonderful addition. We have a state audit coming for the middle school nursing department on September 25th. What it is a 100 student audit. It's for all the immunizations. We've already gone through them just to double check. They're all up to speed. Everything is good. It starts in the 8th grade, and then they'll just continue on from wherever they start until they click 100. We are bringing Kathy Hill up from the elementary school that day to the middle school just to support Jackie, and we'll have our float nurse, Deborah, move down to the elementary school to cover. And if you see one of our nurses, please say thank you for what they did really every day, but last year was unique with all the substituting and covering and helping each other and mapping that all out. They really took it upon themselves to make sure that we didn't skip a beat for the kids. They're very, very dedicated, and it really shows. So if you see them, please, thank them. Tell them, show them we notice. It makes a big difference. They're a centerpiece for the school. Okay, you may have seen that the dates for this year's PEAC committee have gone out. They are above on the screen there. Sometimes they do have to shift a little bit just based on some sectional play where I'm required to go to those away matches or things like that, but try to get it out early. We put it out to the entire community. We do ask that even if you've been on the committee previously, that you do send in an email to Kathy, because some people like to shift away and do a different committee. This way, we have everybody that wants to be involved, and we keep them up to date with changes and things of that nature. Just a few of the things that we will be discussing is putting out the facilities information that we've all been working on, making sure the correct information is out there, answering questions, things like that nature. We've had some registration issues with Family ID as far as making sure that the communication is getting to each and every one of our constituents, regardless of their preferred language and so on and so forth. So that's something that we're really going to be working on to make sure that we're reaching out to all of our community for athletics registration. And we are shifting homecoming just slightly this year. There has been a push for some districts to try to include every single team on one day. That is a very, very big challenge. And what ends up happening is you end up shoving them in there in all these odd times that they're not used to playing. And they don't get to actually watch anybody else because they're prepping for their game, so on and so forth. So in working with the Booster Club, Doreen Cohen, and a couple of the other parents that were wanted to make sure that their students and teams that they watch are celebrated, we have shifted a little bit to a homecoming week where we will have all of the teams showcased. We'll put out the information of when those homecoming games are so that each team can be celebrated by all the other athletes and students within the building, and not just be prepping for their 2 o'clock game when their friends are playing at 9 a.m., so on and so forth. The feedback's been good. Hopefully it works out. That will be next week. Will be our homecoming week. And again, please email Kathy if you would like to join the committee. So we have a new facilities director this year, and we're off and running. We're very integrated within the athletic department. With the facilities director, we work very closely on a number of things. Obviously, all of the outdoor projects. We just completed the lead water testing reports and surveys again, moving trailers and trying to put them in more usable locations and things of that nature. Some of the wood barriers that you'll see going up, that's a work in progress to keep people off of our beautiful campus and keep it maintained as well as possible. You see a lot of the grass seeding, and there were some challenges that we came up with some of the solar installers. They didn't know we used certain fields, so they drove across them, and we had to repair them. So those are kind of ongoing. All the CB radios have been updated, and we have the elementary school geothermal project is complete as far as the wells and so on and so forth. That has been a slight challenge in that we don't have that field this season for 2 of our teams. So we've been shifting them around and working out where best to have them. And then we will play the games actually here on our backfield. So we're trying to bring that up a little bit higher standard. But it should be noted that Tompkins Landscaping that did the final skim coat and all the work on that field did an absolutely amazing job. And I think that field is going to be top-notch come springtime when we actually get to use it again. So very impressive. The Health and Wellness Committee has put together information for a website. And that website is going to be a portal for the community to share information with us, for our school community to share information with the committee, and it will be a central location for teachers, parents, students to go so that they're not searching around on the web for all of these things that they hear about. Okay, well, all of a sudden we hear all this buzz about vaping. If the school doesn't pump out that information, are they getting it properly? Do they have the time to go around and try to get that? So we're going to put all of this information in one spot. That way, when our coalition that cares puts out social media, we'll be able to link that all into this one centralized location. And these are a few of the topics that we will have within that website. As one example here, this will be one of the month themes. Each month has a theme. I didn't put them all up there, but you get the general idea. You'll be able to click on the picture and get into all of the links that we have under that topic. We should be able to archive if it starts to get out of control as far as just volume. We should be able to archive this stuff so it's still accessible, but it won't be overwhelming when a parent just goes and tries to learn a little bit about a topic, so that they're empowered to do the best job they can at home for us and with us. As far as athletics and numbers for this fall season, we were able to implement the later start for JV and varsity practices, so they're not allowed to start until 3:15, so we have left that time open. It's been a little bit of a shift with some coaches as far as when we have a game on a field or in a space, how long they're able to practice beforehand, but we're making it work. So far, it's been okay. The buses have also, we've really made a push to try to keep them from departing until 3:15 to see and feel what that is like, so if we have to make any adjustments. And so far, it's been okay. The numbers are down ever so slightly, as you can see. Through modified is down about 19 students, and JV and varsity is down about 13 from last year. That could be a number of different reasons. Slight decline in enrollment of the school, shifting into other areas of interest. When they come into the high school, maybe they're more into the band or plays or something like that. So the shift happens. I think it's fairly slight. We are looking into why it might be occurring to make sure that we're reaching out to every student. Like we said before, we're not missing anyone. We're supporting them in trying out different activities and things of that nature. But there hasn't been anything glaring at this point as far as why it's taken that slight dip there. Any questions?
And kind of related to that last slide, I know we have a couple of less JV teams this year than we've had last year, or is that, and I know we don't have a JV football, we don't have JV soccer. Did we last year, and is that part of the 13?
Good question. Mm-hmm. So that was one of the things that I was looking at. We did not have JV boys or girls soccer last year, just like this year. We did not have JV field hockey last year. The only one that we don't have this year that we did last is football, and we did retain all of those kids. But that may be where that 13 is, because if we had those 13, we probably would have run that JV football program, where we fell into, you can't start a game without 16 eligible players on the sideline. And when we were in preseason, we thought we had about 24. There was 24 registrations there. And then when they actually rolled out onto the field, we had about 17. And then we had injury. A couple of the students really didn't want to be there, and they kind of quit. They didn't want to play football. And all of a sudden you're left at about 14 eligible, and that's it. So we did what we could to integrate them into the varsity program. Some of the students are able to step up and really impact the game as it is now. And we're also making sure that those students on all of the teams where we don't have the JV, we're trying to work very hard to make sure that they still feel a part of the program and that they still are gaining the skills and so on and so forth, so they can actually make it up there. That's the biggest challenge, is when a small school like our size now, when they don't have JV, which is very common, how do you bridge that gap? How do you make sure that you don't just lose those kids because they're not going to play yet, or they don't see that you need to put in 2 years worth of work to get to that level? So we're really trying to do that. The coaches are well aware of that if they don't spend that time and energy in that area, that they won't have programs. So,
of course. I know in terms of Putnam Valley, the Putnam Valley Football Club is a very active club. Are our JV and varsity coaches reaching out? Was 7th and 8th grade a small team for them last year, which would mean we'd have less JV players?
Yeah.
Is that a line of communication that we're keeping very open?
Yeah, so Rich and I try to meet and communicate all the time. He's the current leader of that group. They are transitioning. They're bringing in another guy that's kind of being mentored by him to take over. Mm-hmm. We work very closely. The varsity coach, they want to make sure that the kids come up with the skill that we want, the plays that we want, so they're in communication a lot. Rich did say that this year was a light year.
And they have had light years with certain grades,
it happens.
Right?
Mm-hmm. I think he said that our next year's incoming freshmen, the numbers right now are about 14 or so, 14 to 16, if I remember correctly. So you hope to retain 10 per class. That is what sustains a JV and a varsity on a football level. So that's the hope. Usually when you move from a modified group into a high school group, you do lose a lot of kids because, it becomes a little more real.
And my last question, did we have modified boys and girls soccer?
Yes.
And then just lost enough that we couldn't warrant having the JVs?
Yeah, there was a slight dip. We have turned over coaches a little bit. I'm hopeful that it's stabilizing a little there. We had some coaches that, for example, the modified boys soccer coach really wanted to shift to another sport. Okay, so we did that. We put him in place, which is a good place, but now we have a new coach.
Right. Okay.
You always take a little bit of a dip, especially with the modified level. You know, who is this person? You know, he's telling me to run around. I don't even know who you are. You're not a teacher. Who is this? So, you know, you have to be comfortable with them. And we have John Boda, who is the assistant varsity boys lacrosse coach, is now the modified boys soccer coach. So even over the last 2 weeks or so, we've seen an influx of kids that are willing to come out. So even though they missed registration at modified, we're trying to pull them in, register them, and get them in the program. Same thing with the girls modified soccer. We have Carrie DeSiena, who is a teacher here. So now that people are aware, oh, this is the coach, I know her, I'm comfortable. So the same thing, we're getting an influx. We had about 12 registrations initially for that program. Now that the kids know the school year has started, they know who the coach is. There's about 18 or 19 kids total.
Great.
So that's a good
So we're moving
sign.
in the right direction.
Now
Okay.
it's going to be, can we keep them and stabilize it for a while?
And we are small. We're looking at
We
our
are.
smaller
We
numbers,
are.
so-
You know, that is something that, having been here a while, we have had JVs. We've been very lucky. Our numbers were up a little bit, and the slight decline that we're having, 2 or 3 kids in each of those JV groups, and all of a sudden you don't have enough to safely field a team. And it's a challenge. We're not the only ones feeling it. It's going around Section 1 a lot. You know.
Okay, thank you. Any
Thank
other
you.
Thank you very
questions?
much, Brian.
Thank
Sorry.
you.
Sorry.
Hope
Anything
we have
else?
a great season.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yes. Good luck to all our athletes.
Good evening. I'm Natalie Doherty, Assistant Superintendent for Pupil Personnel and Human Resources. So tonight I'm going to talk to you about some changes that you should expect going into next year. And Jill, you should listen up because it involves personnel. So one of the things that the state has really been talking about for quite some time is the ratio of school counselors to students. They're recommending now some pretty significant changes that will change just really how we run our counseling programs. So this is really the State Education Department's new amendment. The bottom line is that really we're moving away from that traditional guidance counselor, and I think we're lucky here in many ways. We already provide a lot of these services. We're moving away from just really college-bound or vocational counseling when students are leaving here, but we're really looking at counselors, school counselors, guidance counselors as people who service students in multiple ways in really that counseling setting, just like a school psychologist or a school social worker. So really it is looking at the whole child. I do have to send out a kudos. We have a new intern here, Kendall Coleman, who put most of this together, these slides together. She went to a conference and helped identify the key changes. So the key changes include really all counseling services now being delivered by a certified school counselor along with other constituents. With the primary goal of the key changes is really developing what's called an advisory committee, and that will be done by a group of constituents to really design the goals, to design how we deliver our services, and to really design it from the bottom up again in a different way than what we've done. Again, in Putnam Valley, we're lucky because a lot of the services that we do provide students offer them that clinical support that the state is now looking to change. in the high school, we have 3 guidance counselors. In the middle school, we currently have one guidance counselor. And the recommendation is for every 1 school counselor to 250 students. At the high school, we're fine. At the middle school, it reflects that we would need at least one additional person.
But they're not mandating a number, it's just a
They're not
guideline.
mandating numbers.
'Cause that's
It's
been the guideline
only
for
an
20
advisory.
years. People
Yes,
just don't listen.
it's only really a guidance.
Suggestion or a
It's just
guideline.
guidance. So that's what they're recommending. But again, the advisory council's role in this is going to be huge. It really is going to have to create a plan with very specific measurable goals. This is really the framework where the advisory committee is going to lay the foundation, where they're going to design a vision, a mission statement, review SMART goals, which is really identified goals, such as, which we've already been doing, take a goal like attendance. That committee, that advisory committee, is going to identify specific goals. Say if you want to improve your attendance by 50%, that advisory committee will identify it. If you want to improve graduation rates, that advisory committee is going to identify those goals and collect the data and monitor those supports that are put into place. The management is really about collecting the data, and that can be done in different ways, and there are different programs to help you do that. The delivery of services, again, we provide a lot of those services through direct services in terms of seeing individual students, groups of students, and also advising in terms of college and career readiness. Indirect services, really, and again, we do a lot of this work. We're collaborating with teachers and providing consultations within the classroom setting. And then accountability, and that really is where the advisory committee has to report to the board once a year and report out on these goals and the design of the program and any changes that they're going to make. And again, I think that just developing the program really starts with an advisory council of community members. They expect board members, just really teachers, teacher aides, everybody involved in really making this a community effort and having the vision and the mission driven by community. And this is really the role of the advisory council, just sort of spelled out. You can see it really is about collecting data and really designing, collecting data, and then making changes according to your data. And then, so the recommendation is to create an advisory panel. Look at data collection tools. There are some great tools out there that the advisory committee would look at. And then really to look at hiring an additional counselor to consider that for the middle school. One of the really important things that we are going to be held accountable for now is to also provide support at the elementary level. Again, it really is looking at a K-12 counseling program. We have struggled, you've heard me speak about it before, about the mental health concerns. You can't ignore the changes that have gone on with technology, with access. Children have access to everything, and that really has made significant changes in the way our students and students all over respond to the world. And their needs have really spoken to us. And we've seen that in just the hospitalizations. Last year alone, I had to, every time a student is hospitalized, we have to respond in certain ways as a district. And we had pretty significant mental health concerns last year that we had to respond to. So we are looking at really increasing our supports in the mental health capacity for students. And then the next thing is really a lot of the research suggests that social emotional learning shouldn't just happen in a counselor's office. It really needs to happen throughout the curriculum. So the state is requiring us to really embed our social emotional curriculum right into our what we do every day. So there are 5 core social emotional competencies that the state is looking for us to include in the classrooms. That is self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. So those are the 5 main areas that within the classroom setting that we need to really look at improving. But again, I think that the clinical aspect of the school counselor has shifted. It has shifted both in the certification expectations and just student need. Really, it's being driven by our students and their needs and trying to meet their needs with this ever-changing world. So those are the changes that the state, this has to be in place by 2019 and 20. So that's really next school year. So that's why we need to start to plan and budget for an additional person. And that additional person, I'm not saying that literally that person, but somebody also needs to oversee the elementary program and provide guidance to them. They don't necessarily need to be there. They need to provide guidance and create opportunities for college and career. I know that sounds crazy to talk about K through 4 and college and career readiness, but it really is about providing students opportunities. And you're looking at things like we had when we were younger and that we still have, like professionals coming in and talking about different options that they have. Really also helping to design our mental health strategic plan of how we identify students that are at risk early on. So they're good things. I think that the state has also really given us some funding, and that is through Title IV. That's a new grant that is out there. This year we received approximately $10,000. I don't know if that's going to increase over time. It's certainly not a huge amount of money, but I do think it gives us at least a springboard of some funds that we can use this year. We are planning on bringing in a doctor to really talk about with our administrative staff and our faculty about trauma-informed schools and how to respond to students in crisis. And then we're also looking at developing some coordination of services between mental health providers, parent training, and parent support, and the school. So really combining that homeschool piece and making sure that we're covering all of those things.
And also, Natalie's going to be leading a team
Right.
at BOCES. BOCES is having a special program for developing a strategic plan around social emotional learning, which will help. And our ruler program deals with all of these. The ruler program really takes on these, and it is embedded.
Exactly.
So we're sort of in a good place that we've made some changes.
Yes. So that's it. Any questions?
I mean, I know we're going to be talking about this a lot more, but
Yes.
just one question is, since there's more of a emphasis on the counseling component of the school counselor,
Exactly.
will a school counselor be able to meet the requirements for IEP counseling?
Yes. I mean, they can run, they can do mandated services. Some of the clinical training that is different in the certification will allow them to provide. I'm pretty sure. I mean, I'll double check.
That's something to look into as
But
we're making
I will
decisions.
double check that. But it was my understanding at the presentation I went to that they can meet mandated counseling, but I will double check. Any other questions?
Not at this time,
No?
but you know I
Okay.
will.
We will, yes. And we should, and really designing it. It is our job, really, the next step for us, for Dr. Wills, myself, and the building administrators is to look at putting together an advisory committee to prepare and to start to write these goals and what that will look like and really design it. The primary one of the biggest changes is advisory panel, and really creating goals, and it's going to be goal-driven. The entire counseling program, K-12, will be really goal-driven and reported out to the board once a year.
That's great. Okay. No, it's very good.
No, it's getting late, but we have a very important topic to report on and update everybody on. So I'd like to give a little bit of update on our capital facilities project that we've been working on and introducing to our community. And I believe we're going to be calling it the Putnam Valley Middle School Reconstruction and District-Wide Upgrades. So, as the fiscal officer of the district, I think that so far we've taken a responsible planning, steps towards responsible planning, in that we're focusing on this project as a no tax impact project. To avoid revenue and expenditure levels from spiking high or spiking low in any particular year, we need to focus on how we're going to maintain our current facilities. Our capital planning to maintain and or upgrade the existing facilities, establish a capital planning committee to do so. We've done that so far, and I believe the time is now. And this is, I'm just reiterating things that we have brought out over the last year and have gotten together and done so far. We've know that it's time to align the debt service and the building aid so that there's no impact to the tax levy. And we've been using updating the 5-year plan to do that and help make our decisions. And we have to remember that it's critical to avoid that fluctuation in building aid, because when we do our tax cap formula using building aid and the district's debt is how we calculate the tax levy. So our goal is to keep tax levy consistency and avoid capital improvements coming into our annual budgets so that we can maintain the programs that we have and maintain the staffing that we have, and don't let those capital improvements affect the budget when we don't have space in there to do that. Most importantly, we have to recognize when that opportunity occurs. So in 21-22, that's 2021-22, the district will see debt coming off of our schedule. And I believe that now is that ideal time to start planning, and in order to maintain the stability of that debt level. So typically, future construction projects take 2 to 3 years before we can begin any of the work. I showed this slide it must be a year and a half ago now. We talked about how this was going to take place, and here you can see we have about 3 years, 2 to 3 years to start to get that plan underway, and that's what we've been working on. So again, recognizing that opportunity, because timing is everything. The impact that this has on our budgets, again, I'm going to repeat what I was just saying. Capital upkeep is expensive. Our annual budget would have to include annual capital improvements, and eventually it will take away from the program. I mean, because many capital improvements are not just your, $100,000 or $200,000 projects. You have $500,000 projects that these size buildings are just a drop in the bucket, really. I mean, the capital improvements are cost per square foot to do any type of change are very expensive. So we have to understand the financial implications. When our debt is retired, the ability to afford new debt service and receive building aid disappears from our calculation of the tax levy, and an approved referendum that would cover those capital improvements would definitely maintain a stable tax liability for our district. So as far as progress goes, what's been happening so far, our superintendent and deputy superintendent have been presenting the proposed project scope at the back to school nights. Dr. Luft has made presentations on exactly what's involved in the scope of the project. A committee is being formed, and they are going to share and act as liaisons, and we will meet on September 26th, and we welcome those who wish to be part of that committee. So that's next week on September 26th. So right now we're busy getting the word out. We're staying within the parameters of a no tax impact plan, and our SECRA has been completed. The SECRA is our environmental review. The time has passed. We will be accepting that resolution, I believe, this evening as part of our board resolutions to say that we've gone through that process. So on October 4th, there'll be a resolution asking the Putnam Valley School District Board of Education to approve the proposition that includes a work scope for the purpose of capital improvements identified in the district as either needing infrastructure repair or upgrade to improve the quality of education across this district while creating no impact to the taxpayer. That will be at our next meeting on October 4th. This is what is included in the proposition. For the middle school, I'll just go over those things quickly. Reconstruction of classrooms, cafeteria, and cultural arts spaces with existing footprint, closing in the existing courtyard. Auditorium will be expanded for cultural arts. Cafeteria opens up into a learning library commons by extending and enclosing existing courtyard space, all becoming one large, flexible space and with movable partitions. The HVAC improvements to the middle school and the gymnasium. New windows throughout the building. The middle school cafeteria will be remodeled to accommodate a full-service kitchen. Will provide more room and allow cooking on the premises to provide more food service options. Music and lesson rooms at the middle school will be reconfigured to be more conducive spaces. We'll be overhauling restrooms, specifically on the first floor. Reconfigure nurses area with better utilization of what is now that middle space on the first floor of the middle school. At the elementary school, there'll be next generation pockets, extensions to existing, which are extensions to existing classrooms, either to the outdoors and or reconfiguring of some current spaces that are there, and renovations to their auditorium. The Wellness Center, which is a location attached to the high school gym, will provide an indoor gym, practice turf, half size, not regulation size, but enough for sports, just cheerleading, wrestling, and a turf area. Middle school recess during inclement weather or potential for community use for some of our youth sports. So this is the timeline that we are working on. So there's, on October 4th, a resolution to establish the referendum, put out our legal ads. October 18th, we'll have another update at the board meeting on the capital project. Anything new, anything that's come up in the scope of the work that we want to add or, just give out more information about. On November 4th, we hope to have information available for distribution. By the 15th of November, we are going to have a public Q&A before the board meeting. And we'll be getting out our e-newsletter. And on December 4th will be the public vote for the capital project, middle school reconstruction, and district-wide upgrades. And I'm sorry, I left my notes over there. Just wanted to go over and how to recognize the importance of keeping the tax rate stable. I think that's a big part of my part of the conversation as the financial officer. I know everything else has been about what the work is that's going to be done. And even though we have current capital concerns that we are now managing by making temporary repairs, it's not ideal what we do to keep things up at any given time, but we have to get through them and get to a point where we can afford to make those changes in the proper way, which isn't now, but it's coming. So we have enough debt retiring in 21-22 that we can do those updates. We can make those renovations throughout the district and get through those capital improvements. And this is really the fiscally sound way to do it. We're, spending and don't want to have budgets fluctuating, because that can cause havoc. And I just to give people an example, make it simple, people have a budget. They have budgets at home. They have their mortgage payments. You have something major break in your home. It's not part of your budget. Your budget's impacted, then how are you going to afford it? These are things we need to plan for. You can't decide that you're going to do a major renovation of anything without planning on where you're getting that money from. So, I mean, that's a simple way of looking at it, and that's exactly how we have to look at it, but on a much larger scale. So the next steps for us are to adopt the resolution on October 4th, hold the referendum on December 4th, and continue to work in the meantime with our architects and refine the design, gather public, and get them to help us relay and disseminate the information. This is your community. These are the values of your homes and the value of your school district where your students come to become the future leaders. And this is why we have to do these things to keep the program and the staffing intact, because I think it could have a large effect on the budget down the road if these measures aren't taken. And our public vote will be on December 4th, and I hope everybody gets interested in coming out to support the project and support the dissemination of the information. Again, next week, September 26th, we will have a committee put together to help be those liaisons for the parts of the project that they would like help the district support. Does anybody have any questions?
We're actually not voting on this today. We're voting on this next meeting, right?
That's right.
So October 4th is the
the
referendum,
resolution.
right? The only thing tonight is the secret resolution, the acceptance of that. Yep. Okay. We could do that on Tuesday evening if we are not ready to do that tonight. But yes, we are ready to take that step, though, to accept the secret resolution. It did not have to be done by tonight. It's just been completed, the number of days that we needed to have it out there for review.
So my only question is, so 21-22 is when the timing for we're releasing the debt or whatever the expression is. Is there strategic or time requirements for why the vote would be on December 4th and not as part of the general May voting?
I'd have to say that not really. We want to to be able to get going on the planning phase of the project as soon as possible. It takes 18 to 24 months to get the New York State Education Department, Facilities and Planning to approve your project scope. And the more time we have to go through that process, the more successful we'll be to get it done on time.
I just have concern and want to make sure that our public outreach is very, very aggressive.
Right.
Because people expect a vote about something every May. Nobody really thinks to expect a vote in December. And that's 8 weeks from when we passed the referendum. So
There are many school districts
Yes.
who hold their votes
Sure,
for
no,
this type
absolutely.
of referendum in December, where there are a couple of neighboring districts actually doing it right now. And
I
you'll see
believe the
them, they
high-
vary from
We'll
time from
find
place
at
to
least
place.
3 doing this in this December.
I believe the high school was originally, their vote to build a high school was December. So, I was just wondering if it was a time constraint, but I want to make sure
It's more
we're,
about giving ourselves extra time to get it through the state education department.
but I want to be very aggressive and open in our outreach about it to make people aware.
Sorry. So just keep in mind that we can't miss the construction start date of that first summer, which would not be next summer, but the following summer. And if we fell behind and missed that summer, it would essentially delay the project an entire year just based upon the phasing of the project and what work we can do when. So we want to give ourselves a little extra time to get the plans through the state education department, to create the bids, to do all that work. So we line ourselves up for the construction to begin in the summer following the 1920 school year.
No, I definitely understand. I just want to make sure we have that conversation in front of the public and that we continue to do outreach.
So we're doing mailings, we're creating a video, we're creating posters to put in the front of the schools. There'll be a very significant communication plan moving forward. And that's really what our goal is on the 26th, is to take community members and help devise a plan to disaggregate that information out to everyone, disseminate that information out to everyone. So more information will be following that meeting, but we definitely plan to make sure that people are aware that this is happening and have a full understanding, and there'll be plenty of opportunities for both presentations at the board meeting and question and answer. We're going to do sort of a roaming road show for anyone who's willing to hear my spiel. So just to make sure that the information's out there.
And Monday evening, I believe we're going to have our Director of Operations also giving that presentation at the middle school opening night.
Okay.
Oh, back to school night. Sorry, I'm getting a little tired.
Right there with you. Okay, great. Thank you very much. I'm sorry, does anybody else have anything? I'm being very bossy today.
There's a great deal of effort and work that has been done in the past several months and all last year to prepare us for this. So it's the culmination of that actually will be in that first referendum, and we can't underestimate the timing of this whole process with the tax cap in particular. Having an opportunity to address the debt is significant. It makes a huge difference. It will make a huge difference. We're no longer in a situation where you can look at taxes and raising each year. That isn't the way things are done. We have to stay within that tax cap. We're committed to it. It has helped our community. Members have received their rebates. And we have to remain within that tax cap. So this project enables us to do it. We're not alone. There are a number of districts doing the same thing. And this particular year, because building had taken place at a similar time in their districts.
That makes sense.
And ultimately, this is all programmatic, because the project deals with just not even to the basis level. On the finance side, it impacts program and education if it doesn't get done because of the tax cap.
Yes.
And that requires significant cuts for the programs that we actually already are doing.
All right, and last one. We're doing a second reading.
So there are two sections to this code of conduct to call attention to. One is that students would not be permitted to be in any marked, unauthorized area of a building they regularly attend. This is significant with the unit lunch, for example, where we have certain areas that are open and available for students and others that are clearly marked that cannot be entered. And again, it's also the making sure that we are monitoring the locations and so on of where our students can be, and with the supervisory staff that we have. The other point is the cell phone use or misuse. we did not have cell phone in our student conduct report, our code of conduct, in terms of misuse. We had computers, electronic communications, but not the cell phone in particular, and that, of course, has become a major issue in schools, in classrooms. So that's why we're adding cell phone. Then the next section would be the addition of the word vaping, because that has again become one of these epidemics, if you will, of misuse in schools. And so we had to add that in our tobacco and cigarette portion of the code of conduct.
Okay.
And finally, there's one more where we have the area on cyberbullying and threatening, hazing, harassing students or school personnel. And we added face-to-face as well as over the phone or the internet as being prohibited behaviors.
And this is our second reading. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. And then we will be voting then on that tonight? Yes. Resolution, great. Okay. All right.
Yes.
Sarah, since it's way past my bedtime, it might be past yours. Do you have a student report for us? I know it's your first meeting. Would you like to go first?
Sure.
Go ahead.
So it's only been nine school days so far, so I don't have really a long list of things to tell you about, but I do have two. The first being that on September 17th, with the help of the History Club, the high school celebrated Constitution Day. On this day in 1787, delegates of the Constitutional Convention met to sign the Declaration of Independence. Students were reminded of this fact, and some were lucky enough to receive a pocket constitution in celebration of this historical day. The second area is in music. So this year's fall play is Lost in Yonkers. Set in the 1940s, it tells the story of two boys sent to live with their stern grandmother and childlike aunt in Yonkers. However, at this point, the play is far from near, but in the meantime, you can satisfy your musical craving by attending the Triumph Honor Society-sponsored open mic performance at Putnam Valley at the Tompkins Corner Cultural Center at 7 p.m. on Friday, October 12th. This event includes individual and group performances featuring both instrumental and vocal talent. Don't miss out on this awesome event. That's all I got for tonight.
And the event is free.
Yes.
And thank you for your feedback before about the schedule. It was very appreciative. Okay, now I'll go back to you.
I think we've really heard more than I could ever tell you in a report from our administrators about what is happening here in the 18-19 school year. It's quite exciting. It's panoramic, and it has been a labor of love, but a great deal of effort has gone into ensuring that we were able to start with a later start, even with some really difficult times with our transportation company. But a lot of work went into figuring out the transportation process. And the unit lunch, which originally started out with some difficulties, really has become something that I think students look forward to. And there's a great deal of work still to be done. But we're off to a phenomenal start with a lot new, and change is a little uncomfortable, but it's also exciting, and it's a place to learn.
Absolutely. Dr. Weft.
Well, I promised to defer my time to my colleagues, so I just wanted to commend the teachers, professionals, and my administrative colleagues for everything that was presented tonight, the tremendous amount of work that was done over the summer, and for doing what they do on behalf of students every day. That's it.
And amen to that. I'll add my thanks. And PTA, PTSA? No? I do know there's a PVEF, Putnam Valley Education Foundation event coming up. Is it before our next meeting?
Color Run on September 30th.
So it is before our
2 p.m.
next meeting, okay. So the PV, for those of you who don't know, we usually do some public service announcements for them. The Putnam Valley Education Foundation raises funds that directly enhance things that our budget would not pay for. And they are doing a color run on
2
the,
p.m. on September 30th.
right, so it's probably on their website, and I'm sure there's information about it, so I encourage everybody to get out. It's probably going to be a beautiful fall day and participate in that.
And our principals have been very much involved in helping with the publicity.
Great. That'll be fun. I'd like to open it up to public contribution on any of the listed agenda items. And failing that, let's move on to new business. And Mr. Ferraro, can I ask you to start with number 1?
You can ask.
Mr. Ferraro, will you please start with number 1?
Resolved on the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to appoint Stephanie Tato to a 1-year leave replacement position as a school psychologist at the elementary school effective September 24th, 2018 through June 30th, 2019 or sooner at the discretion of the Board of Education on Step 4, MA, of the PVFT salary schedule. Ms. Tato holds permanent school psychologist certification.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Number 2.
Resolved on recommendation of the superintendent of schools to approve the permanent appointment of Valerie Alleman to senior office assistant effective October 1st, 2018 on Schedule B, Step 5 of the CSEA Senior Office Assistant Salary Schedule, subject to satisfactory completion of a probationary term of not less than a minimum 8 weeks, November 24th, 2018, and a maximum 52 weeks, September 30th, 2019, probationary period.
Second. Questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Number 3.
Resolved on recommendation of the superintendent of schools to appoint Matthew Danko as a .1 FTE Earth Science teacher for special education students at the high school, which is an addition to his full-time assignment, effective September 1st, 2018, at his contractual rate of pay, prorated.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Number 4.
Resolved on the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to approve the request from Elizabeth Boscarino as per document 50/19 attached to the agenda and official minutes of this meeting to rescind her resignation for the purpose of retirement that was to be effective June 30th, 2019 and was accepted by the Board of Education on April 12th, 2018.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Number 5.
Resolved on the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to amend as per document number 4619 the 2018-19 SPO contract with Putnam County approved at the July 12th, 2018 meeting of the Board of Education as document number 319. The amended document is attached to the agenda and official minutes of this meeting.
Second.
Questions or comments?
This is for our new SRO officer, Daniel Murray.
SPO.
Huh?
This is our SPO.
SPO.
This is Greg Giavain.
Oh, not Daniel Murray. Okay.
Daniel Murray was the SRO.
Right.
He's the SRO. We did his, I think, another time. So this is our SPO who's at our elementary school, and Greg Giavain, who is also a parent in the district and a very highly qualified, experienced officer. He's a police officer, I believe, in New York City. And he is now our SPO for our elementary school. Remember, we had George Turner, and he retired. So Mr. Giavain has taken a position, and he's very well liked already. Students love him already.
All in favor? Aye. Number 6.
6. Resolved upon recommendation of the superintendent of schools to approve the second reading of policy 5300.30, Code of Conduct prohibited student conduct, as per document number 49/19 attached to the agenda and official minutes of this meeting.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Number 7.
Whereas at the annual election of the qualified voters of Putnam Valley Central School District, Putnam and Westchester Counties, New York, held on May 15, 2018, a proposition was duly adopted authorizing the Board of Education of said school district to purchase school buses as described therein for a maximum estimated cost of $500,000, and providing for the levy of a tax therefore to be collected in installments with obligations of said school district to be issued in anticipation thereof. And whereas it is now desired to provide for such purchase of said school buses as described therein and the financing thereof, now therefore be it resolved by the affirmative vote of not less than 2/3 of the total voting strength of the Board of Education of Putnam Valley Central School District, Putnam and Westchester Counties, New York, as follows. Section 1. The purchase of school buses in and for Putnam Valley Central School District, Putnam and Westchester Counties, New York, including cost incidental thereto, is hereby authorized at a maximum estimated cost of $500,000. Section 2. The plan for the financing of the aforesaid maximum estimated cost shall consist of the issuance of $500,000 bonds of said school district, hereby authorized to be issued therefore pursuant to the provisions of the local finance law. Such bonds are to be payable from the amounts which shall annually be levied on all taxable real property in said school district, and annually be levied, and the faith and credit of said Putnam Valley School District, Putnam and Westchester Counties, New York, are hereby pledged for the payment of said bonds and the interest thereon. I need double space. Section 3. It is here... Oh, that's true. Well, no. It is hereby determined that the period of probable usefulness of the aforesaid class of objects or purposes is 5 years, pursuant to the subdivision 29 of paragraph A of section 11.00 of the local finance law. Section 4. Subject to the provisions of the local finance law, the power to authorize the issuance of and to sell bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance and sale of the serial bonds herein authorized, including renewals of such notes, is hereby delegated to the President of the Board of Education, the Chief Fiscal Officer. Such notes shall be of such terms, form, and contents, and shall be sold in such manner as may be prescribed by said President of the Board of Education, consistent with the provisions of local finance law. Section 5. All other matters, except as provided herein relating to the serial bonds herein authorized, including the date, denominations, maturities, and interest payment dates, within the limitations prescribed herein, and the manner of execution of the same, including the consolidation with other issues, and also the ability to issue serial bonds with substantially level or declining annual debt service, shall be determined by the President of the Board of Education, the Chief Fiscal Officer of such school district. Such bonds shall contain substantially the recital of validity clause provided for in section 52.00 of the local finance law, and shall otherwise be in such form and contain such recitals, in addition to those required by section 51.00 of the local finance law, as the President of the Board of Education shall determine consistent with the provisions of the local finance law. Section 6. The validity of such bonds and bond anticipation notes may be contested only if A. Such obligations are authorized for an object or purpose for which said school district is not authorized to expend money. Or B, the provisions of law which should be complied with as of the date of publication of this resolution are not substantially complied with, and an action, suit, or proceeding contesting such validity is commenced within 20 days after the date of such publication. Or C, such obligations are authorized in violation of the provisions of the Constitution. Section 7. This resolution shall constitute a statement of official intent for purposes of Treasury Regulations Section 1.150-2. Other than as specified in this resolution, no monies are or are reasonably expected to be reserved, allocated on a long-term basis, or otherwise set aside with respect to the permanent funding of the object or purpose described herein. Section 8. This resolution, which takes effect immediately, shall be published in summary form in the Press and Sun Bulletin, the official newspaper of said school district for such purpose, together with a notice of the school district clerk substantially in the form provided in Section 81.00 of the local finance law.
Beautifully read, Mrs. Parmley.
Second.
No,
Just
that's
after that long
roll call vote.
Yeah, but I
Wait, she seconded, and now we're questioning and commenting. Go
Okay,
ahead.
so I'm just commenting because they listed the wrong newspapers within the last sentence
Right.
there.
Right. I wondered
Naming
who
the Press and the
Sun
Sun Bulletin in case no one here has ever heard of those two newspapers. I believe it will be the Journal News and the Putnam County News and Recorder. Okay.
So, Barbara, you only have to read the whole thing again for that.
No, and I'm sorry because it's so late.
Do you want me to read 8 again?
What's that?
Do you want me to read 8 again?
No,
Okay.
I'm just adding that comment to it.
And
Make
that's
sure
fine.
that everyone knows it's
And
not
that'll
those
be
two
reflected.
It'll be
newspapers.
as amended.
That'll be amended.
Corrected.
And
Okay,
Go
Jill,
Yes.
what does that mean for the public?
Okay, so I was going to explain it, but I got distracted by the newspaper. So in May, when we had the budget vote, we also had a proposition on the ballot for the possible purchasing of school buses over the next, well, there was no specific amount of time, but if we needed to, up to $500,000. Purchased 3 vans this past summer to help accommodate the fleet that we currently have. We disposed of 3 vans. They're on an auction website, high mileage, not usable, run down, one of them not even running. And so this is when we go to access that money, we have to pass this resolution in order to access the financing of that money, even though that money has already been approved to be financed through the proposition that we passed in May. So it's just a technicality. It's another step when you go to do the financing of the actual purchases.
And these are for current and active purchases?
Yes.
And all the places that it said the Board of Education shall, you'll explain that to me at the time I have to.
Yes.
And so we're going to use the whole 500,000 that we
No,
allocated?
it was 149,000 for the 3 vans. They're being financed. The closing will be coming up shortly. It can happen 21 days after this meeting. And at that time, they'll bid, the bond council will bid out the best bidder for the financing, and then we'll go ahead and close on that and pay off that money over the next 5 years.
All in favor? No, roll call. Okay. Aye.
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 So why couldn't the resolution be just what you said?
lawyers.
Because that's just not the way.
Lawyers.
This
And-
legal stuff is torture.
And Mr. Cohen is so happy that Mr. Smith only had a conflict for part of the meeting and not the whole meeting, because that would have
Sorry.
moved over.
That would have moved
one
over
of
one
the-
slot, yes.
Okay, moving right along to the consent agenda as the Board of Education gets punchy. Number 1.
Resolved to approve consent agenda items 2 through 12 as presented to the board at this meeting.
Second.
Questions or comments?
CSE CPSA placements is number 1. We're amending the appointment for a teacher to be at the middle school who will be handling multi-sensoring reading. We're appointing at the high school the people who are going to run the Twilight program, two of our teachers. We're appointing the freshman foundation coordinators, 2 teachers. We're approving an online health education course, Proctor, Mr. Worrell. We're approving the modified field coach, and I should mention that it is my daughter, Rebecca Girardi. We're approving the girls swim lifeguard, Zach Smith. We're approving faculty members to attend the occupational physical therapy team meeting, and there are 5 teachers being approved for that. We're approving a contract with HYZAMFT, High Zamfit, for tutoring services for one of our students who requires these special services. We're approving a contract with Chubb Tank Safe, Ace American Insurance Company, for our storage tank liability insurance. We're approving an after-school detention monitor, 6 faculty members, and that is it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Never? Okay. Okey doke. I'd like to open it up now to public comment on any topic at all.
Just a quick announcement.
Anything from the board?
On Tuesday of this week, this community lost a person who was very dear to all of us, Roger Backus. Roger Backus served on this Board of Education from 1976 to 1991, and he was also the leader of a camp. I just had the brain dead. The Boy Scout camp next to Fonstock, Camp Reed, and he was one of those persons who believed in our children first and foremost. If you want to talk about people, back when he was on the board, there was also Laura Porter, 2 people who cared all about our children and would do anything for our children.
And there are
he passed away at 91 this past Tuesday.
There are high school awards of community service in both of their names.
And we sent something out to the public today as well, to the community, with this same statement.
He certainly made a positive impact in his 91
They were
years.
on the board at my first board meetings that I came to when my children were small and I just moved into the district. And you'd see Roger and Laura sitting together. Roger was, 6'8". Yeah. Laura was like 4'8". So it was the big and the small, but total dedication to our students. So
may you rest in peace. Okay. Anybody else, anything else from the board? Then I would like resolve to convene an executive session for 3 matters.
Fourth matter of collective bargaining.
For 3 matters for the employment history of 3 particular persons and 1 matter of collective bargaining, after which time no further business will be conducted.
Second.
All in favor? Question and comments, all in favor?
Did you have public comments?
I had public comments.
Yep. Happy autumn.
Yes. Good night, everyone.